Good evening, everyone. I'm real excited to talk to you all tonight about WePay, which has some really close ties to Boston College. WePay's mission is to provide a payments platform that empowers platform businesses to change the world. So WePay works with companies like crowdfunding platform, online marketplaces, and small and medium-sized business to help them facilitate their payments. WePay was founded in 2008 by Rich Aberman and Bill Clerico as an easy way for groups to collect payments. So a peer-to-peer payment platform. And a funny story, Rich actually thought of the idea of WePay while he was trying to collect money for his brother's bachelor party. Rich found that the process of collecting money from friends and family was extremely frustrating and cumbersome, and he was hoping there was a service out there that would help facilitate these payments to groups of friends. So in 2009, after they both graduated from Boston College, WePay was selected to participate in the prestigious Y Combinator Accelerator program in Palo Alto, which brought them out to the West Coast. To date, WePay has had 4 rounds of professional funding, totaling over $74 million. Some of their investors include people like Max Levchin, who is a co-founder of PayPal, and actually one of the founding members and extremely successful members of the PayPal Mafia. In 2014, WePay pivoted from a peer-to-peer model to a platform-only payment service provider, meaning they were no longer in the peer-to-peer space. In 2015, Inc. magazine ranked WePay as the 62nd fastest growing company in America. So they're growing at a rapid pace. To give you a primer on what payments are, payments allow marketplaces to connect buyers to sellers and include businesses like you might think of Amazon and eBay, but also service providers like Airbnb and Uber. And that's kind of a new model of a marketplace. Marketplaces typically charge a fee to connect consumers with businesses. But it's not just that simple. There's a lot of pain and regulatory compliance that goes into these payment marketplaces. Enabling marketplaces to execute payments is an extremely complicated system with many stakeholders. Most marketplaces use the merchant of record model for the transactions they process. There's 4 major problems with the merchant of record process. Compliance is the biggest. A marketplace will have to deal with many credit card companies' networks, including Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and they all want payments processed in a particular way. They also prohibit the aggregation of money. These credit card companies want transparency into the sellers on your marketplace to ensure that they're not bad actors or fraudulent sellers. There's an extreme amount of regulatory compliance. States and federal government make payment providers and marketplaces register and get licensed to solicit money transmissions. There's an extreme amount of fraud. To think about it, what if sellers weren't real companies and did not deliver on their product or service? What happens then? Well, chargebacks happen. Chargebacks or reversals of payments are a real headache for marketplaces. It also opens the marketplace up to a great amount of risk because ultimately they're liable for the transaction. And if you think about it, a marketplace, again, tries to match buyers with sellers. They don't really care about how their payments get processed. So there's an extreme amount of operational burdens when you do online payments. You have to file what are known as 1099-K forms. You also have to reconcile your bank accounts down to the cent. You have to deal with disputes between buyers and sellers, and you have to deal with chargebacks. And that's just a small sample of what a marketplace has to deal with when you're talking about payments. So the value of companies like WePay is in allowing these marketplaces to focus on what they do, focus on their business of connecting buyers and sellers, and WePay handles the rest. So after getting out of the peer-to-peer business, WePay is focused on marketplaces, crowdfunding platforms, and small business platforms, like I mentioned earlier. And they have 2 main products. Their first product is Connect. Connect is their turnkey solution, which touts payments processing with minimal fuss and a great user experience. You don't have to leave the site to sign up to use WePay, unlike PayPal, where it takes you to many redirected windows. They also manage fraud protection compliance, and regulatory concerns, which we spoke about earlier. WePay Connect has a real easy to use API. And when you think about it, an API allows companies to integrate their product into your marketplace. So APIs allow developers to access WePay's software application, which allows the interaction and data sharing between WePay and the marketplace, allowing those payment facilitations to happen. Clear is their new product. It's their white label solution. Clear allows customers to customize their user interface and also to set their own pricing. WePay Clear works in the back, so you won't see the embedded WePay logo. So it's much more customizable, and it also is much cheaper than developing an in-house solution. WePay Clear works on a subscription model. So just to highlight, in the middle of the page, I've highlighted some of WePay's largest customers, which include the donations crowdfunding site like GoFundMe. Okay, now let's talk for a minute about how WePay earns revenue. So for such a complex industry, it really is surprisingly simple how they earn revenue. WePay earns revenue by charging a flat fee for each transaction. So for credit card payments, it's roughly 3% and 30 cents on each transaction. For bank accounts, it's 1% and 30 cents for each transaction. As we mentioned earlier, WePay is really growing at a rapid rate. In 3 years, they've grown over 4,000% in revenue. And again, a lot of that comes from those leading crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe, FreshBooks, and Constant Contact. And they're growing extremely fast. So how do they differentiate from some of their competitors? As we talked about, PayPal is their largest and oldest competitor. PayPal is really good at the compliance and risk management process of the payments industry, but where PayPal suffers is on the user experience. As I mentioned earlier, PayPal makes you go to a different website, a different window to actually register to use PayPal. It's not integrated into the user interface. And then you have some other competitors like Stripe and Braintree, or some companies you may have heard of. They started out really good on the user experience and the simplicity of the payments, but they lacked in compliance and risk management. Although they are moving up that pathway closer to where WePay sits currently. And how does WePay remain strategic and above what their competitors? And that's their product known as Vita. Vita is WePay's social risk engine, which uses data as a way to underwrite merchants and to make sure they're actually verified sellers. So it scours social media to make sure that the sellers are real, seeing if they have Facebook friends, if they've been in business for a while, and other things like that. So think of it as WePay's credit score. And again, it uses proprietary algorithms, so it is something that they have as intellectual property. WePay wants to be the best product out there for crowdfunding platforms. Due to the passage of the 2012 Jobs Act by President Obama, there is explosive growth in equity and debt crowdfunding platforms, and WePay intends to capitalize on that growth. Lastly, let's talk a minute about the founding team, both of which are BC graduates and both of which who we will hopefully meet on our field study out west. Bill Clerico is a Boston College graduate of 2007, and prior to starting WePay, Bill worked for a little bit in investment banking. In his BC days, Bill actually doubled as Baldwin the Eagle. Bill was also on an episode of the Bravo TV show, I believe, Millionaire's Matchmaker, looking for love. Bill found it. I don't think so on the show, but he is now engaged to Katie Sullivan, who is also a BC alum, and we may meet her at Facebook, since she is a corporate recruiter there. Rich Aberman is the other co-founder of WePay, and he's the Chief Product Officer. Rich also graduated in 2007, and during his time at BC, he was a presidential scholar. Bill shortly went to NYU School of Law before starting WePay, so he was there for about a year. And Bill and Rich were both voted as two of the best young entrepreneurs by Bloomberg Businessweek. So I'm really excited to get out there and meet both Bill and Rich and learn a little more about WePay. So ask me some questions, please. You can tweet me or look for me on LinkedIn. Also, I'm pretty sure you all know my email. So thanks again for listening to my talk about WePay, and I'm really excited to get out west and take a look at the companies we're going to see. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.